It's funny. That's about the same time that Dino and I left the Adecco family as well. It was about 7 years ago. Yeah. Probably 6 or 7 years ago.
You got to just love the Jerry Maguire moments when you walk out of a place. We're going to do an episode. We're going to do a podcast episode with, I don't know, I almost want to make it like a whole montage of guests. And then we do like recordings of like their Jerry Maguire moment where like they left the staffing agency. And it was like the peace out, you know, and you could kind of go into more of what that's like. But sometimes you get those. Depends on the environment.
Right.
But you know, the funny thing is, you know, and I have, when I think of Andy, you know, I had met you a long time ago when you were at Robert Half. And I met you because my mother has her own legal staffing firm, and I had met you at a legal ALA conference, kind of like conference booth thing. And I was trying to go and pitch, you know, to IT staffing, right? And I'm like, hey, you know, you're all here looking for attorneys and accountants and stuff like that. And I was trying to be like that. But I remember seeing you there. And that was the first time I met you, but I'd heard of you just from the industry. And then everyone that I've ever met who has worked for or worked with Andy always says great stuff about him. You know, like always says really positive, you know, like great guy, loved working for him. And they kind of seem to always like have your back, which is interesting because it's different than you hear a lot of people in staffing who have worked for a recruiting manager or director or sales manager in this business. It's generally not always super positive.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
I think you referred to it a little bit, Andy, is you said there's good ones and there's bad ones. I think the longer you do it, you see that there's a lot more bad ones than good ones, I think. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's just
that's
my
anything,
view of it.
though, right?
Yeah. But your reputation is everything in this business. Your integrity and your reputation. And it can easily get tarnished if you're not doing, you know, working on that at all times. But that's a good testament to you. If people are consistently and constantly saying, hey, this is a good guy to work for, it's always a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think with regard to reputation, what have you done in your career that's allowed that type of opinion to be formed of you?
Well, thanks for the kind words to both of you. No, I think I just kind of learned, I guess, just growing up with kind of an old soul, an old man, I guess you can say it, where I kind of realized early on that I needed my team more than they needed me, because they can go somewhere else. They can go work for a different manager, sell the exact same services that they could work in for me. So if I had that aura or just reputation of like being a dictator, a micromanager, what's in it for me, that I would not be very successful. And it wasn't some book that I read. It wasn't some great wisdom I learned from a mentor. I just figured it out one day. I was like, these people don't need me. Like, these people are successful without me. I inherited some good people. Whatever it is that once you identify a strong performer or someone who has great potential, get the best out of them, to the point where I used to give up my commissions. So when I was a staff manager and then turned division manager, I was still in a production role, but I was hiring these newbies. And as you guys both know, there's a lot of turnover, especially in the first year in staffing. And if I found somebody who I thought this could make it, who had strong potential, yet they were not getting the phone calls from their customers because I had somebody else on the team who'd been with the company for 10 plus years, was just entrenched in the market. They got those calls. I would kind of do some side deals with some of those recruiters that work for me and say, hey, I'll give you my next commission, next conversion fee, next driver placement, if you allow me to take that small little temp order, tell my new account manager, hey, good news, you just got a job order, not tell them what happened, how it happened.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want people to know what I was doing. It wasn't sneaky by any means, but I just wanted to take care of those people that I knew would eventually take care of me. Yeah. Because turnover is horrible for this business. And I didn't want to lose a good potential person because they didn't get that success that they were looking for. And this business, like anything else, about confidence. If you don't have confidence, you're going to be horrible at your job. And then I just believe in open doors for people. And, you know, of course, when I was about to come back here, they were doing references on me, both in Phoenix, New York, everywhere else. Hey, we're talking to Andy. What do you guys think about him?
Yeah.
And, I didn't know what they were going to say about me. But fortunately, it was positive feedback. And I just think that your personal reputation, your professional reputation is so big that just this year, I've probably had 4 or 5 friends call me with business. Both here in Phoenix. And I say, hey, I can't personally help you, but I'll make sure that the right person gets in touch with you. And these are people that are just personal friends. And I don't like to mix business and friendship together, but it's helpful just making sure that people know it's not what's in it for you, but it's in what's best for other people.
That's so important. I feel like with leadership and management. I mean, I've had great bosses when I've worked for staffing companies in the past, and I've had some really bad ones. Like I had one specifically that stands out. I wonder if they're listening right now. But after I left peacefully, and I just said, hey, I'm moving on. 2 years here, 3 years here, 4 years here. I'm good. I'm going to move on. They would tell people that they fired me. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, and it's what? Because their ego? But that stuff comes back around because you'll talk to somebody later and like, oh yeah, that person tells everybody that they fired you. Like, well, I was actually only ever fired from Aerotech. I got fired because I called out my salesperson, but it was actually during the 2006, 2007, the downturn in the economy with the real estate market or whatever, and they were like, hey, start recruiting on these factory employees who are manufacturing widgets. And I was just like, yeah, no, that's not my job. But you think about leadership in this business. There are people who, when you're a recruiter or sales, the biggest thing is you want someone to have your back. Now, if you suck, if you're just not good, you need the honesty from that person to say, hey, look, I can sit here and put you on a performance plan and I can do all these types of things. Like, we want you to be good. We want you to be successful. But comes a point in time where you have to realize, do you have the DNA for recruiting or not? And sometimes a little honesty will help you. You know what I mean? Like, say, if you're not living up to realistic expectations about what you're capable of doing, if you don't have any confidence and that's just deep rooted, that's not because you didn't make a sale, right? Or you're really good on the phone. In the end of the day, we can BS you into staying and sticking it out and being a low performer forever. But, what do you think about that? I mean, with building your team up and stuff. And you probably have a different perspective, right?
So again, the person had to demonstrate the effort was there. Positive attitude is as corny as that sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think attitude, especially your first 90 days, is king, right? So there's that list of those 10 things you control. Work ethic, being on time, and so on. Mm-hmm. So if those attributes weren't there, then I'm done, right? So as kind as giving I can be, because that person who has a poor attitude, poor work ethic, lateness, that drags down the whole team, right? So one person, one top producer does not make the team, right? But with that said, I knew that I could, in the end, it only kind of affected me, but I knew, short-term loss, long-term gain, right?
Sure.
So if somebody did have a poor attitude or just wasn't the right fit, then of course I would not give them kind of side deals. But I would say it probably worked out 90% in my favor, mm-hmm. where and those people are still my friends that are still in this business. And someone might argue, someone might say, hey, Andy gave him too many freebies. But if you're in this business now doing this for 5, 10, 15 years, you're pretty good at what you do, mm-hmm. right? Just because of the fact that turnover is so high, especially the first couple of years, that these people who started in 05, 06, where, yes, it was a phenomenal market, but in a lot of ways, the market was saturated with how many recruiters, how many people were getting into recruiting.
Wow.
It was real estate agents, mortgage brokers, and recruiters. And most of those people who I kind of helped out quite a bit, they're still doing this. They're not working with me anymore, but they're still who I would consider to be friends. that I've referred business over to in the past, right? Because they're good.
Right.
They just needed some early wins, some confidence to get there past that. Is this the right job? Is this the right industry for me?
In my experience, I've kind of lumped people into three categories. There's the ones that are good, and like you said, you can identify that they're doing all the right things, and maybe they don't have instant success, but you can see that they're going to get there because they're doing all the right things. There's ones that I think are the opposite. They're not doing all the right things, and you can probably see that they're not going to be successable. And then there's this gray area sometimes where maybe someone is doing the right things, but they aren't achieving success over a longer period of time. And that's maybe where Dino was saying they don't have the DNA. And one thing I have learned in this business, and really any business, is sometimes it's not bad to say, because if we let people go too long without being successful, even if they're doing the right thing, sometimes it becomes a disservice to them too, where you're almost hindering their progress, where maybe this just isn't for you, or maybe this would be a better fit for you. But I've seen it where people are kind of coasting for a year and a half, and then they get frustrated with themselves, saying, why am I just not good at this? When maybe 6 months in, the conversation could have been had that, well, maybe this isn't the right fit for you, per se. And I've had some really good conversations with people that say, you know what, thanks for pointing that out and saying, helping me find a different path, because this isn't for everybody. Just like any other profession, this isn't for everybody. But there's those who work hard are going to be successful. Yeah. There's those who are just don't want to put in the effort and the time to make themselves successful. And there's some that just, it's not for them, and it's okay. But if we hang on to those people too long, it almost is bad for them.
Yeah, and this is, again, Ryan and I are giving our opinions, and this has nothing to reflect on Andy and what he does. I want to make sure, that what we're saying. But I feel my personal opinion in this business is this is a performance-based business. You know what I mean? You are a direct revenue contributor to an environment, and it is your job to produce. And if you don't, then who is, right? So someone has to pay for you. Someone has to generate enough money for you. And it's very similar to the NFL or any sports. They are also performance-based. And much like in the NFL, if you aren't cutting it, say, for example, I'm going to reference the Cardinals again, but Chris Johnson, CJ2K, got cut. Why did a 2,000-yard rusher get cut from the Cardinals? I mean, we would obviously want to have him. Well, because he kept fumbling the ball in the preseason.
Well, and he hasn't been a 2,000-yard rusher since, 2008.
Right. But that could also be, you can't hold your past experiences, your past success on the fire too long, right? What have you done? If recruiting is also, what have you done for me lately? In 2009, I had 30K in spread. Yeah. So that doesn't really work anymore. You have to continue to contribute, right, and to be successful.
Yeah, I have an example where this is at a previous company, and I had two recruiters start on the exact same day, and they became instant friends. First 90 days, they were just gradually getting by. Not the greatest work ethic, and I set both of them down separately and said, you've got 30 days to turn things around, or I will let you go. Just black and white.
Right.
And one person kept on doing what they were doing before. Other person did not hit the goals that I asked him to, but his attitude, his work ethic stood out. He stayed on the team. The other person I let go, and he turned into a 400 or 500K perm producer. And he was literally probably days away from being let go. Yeah. And he knows this too. And basically I had to just come to Jesus meeting with him.
You have to.
And some people don't react very well to it, mm-hmm. and some do. And this was towards, this is probably 2010, 2011. So it wasn't the greatest economy here in Phoenix. And he stepped up and he crushes it. He crushes it. And I've done introductions for him. I think he's doing his own thing right now. But he's someone who I would definitely hire again. But he just needed that little whooping, I guess you could say. And he reacted so well. He didn't hit the billings goal that I had given him. Mm-hmm. I said, you know what? You turn things around. I want you part of the team. And he's crushing it.
If they're showing that they're doing it, and they're making it happen, those are the big things. I've had to go through recruiters. And I'm not a micromanager, right? So I'm the kind of guy when I hire a recruiter to work for me, I'm like, here's your expectations, here are your goals, and I'm going to pay you, right? I'm going to pay you this money, but and people have to have this realization that they know that like money is got to